On the show, we have a highly successful real estate expert, and I'm super excited because I love real estate. But she is the owner and broker of Sky Realty that helps people create wealth and a legacy through real estate. Please welcome from the state of Delaware, Jill.
Thank you so
You're
much.
so welcome. I'm so excited that you're here. We share the same name, which means it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Energy twins.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to kick things off because, like I said, I love real estate, but I really want to find out more information about how you got started in real estate because it seems like there's so many different people that kind of end up in it, like in the best way possible.
Yeah, honestly, I really got started. My life actually totally changed when I was about 13 years old. My parents got a divorce. Leading up to that, my mom was looking for a house, and so we would go out with this lady. She was this little old Asian lady, adorable. She's still a realtor. Like she has to be 100 years old.
That's
She's still
awesome.
a realtor. But she would take us. Her name was Lonnie Freshwater. She would take us around to look at houses, and we would be inside, and I was always like imagine my life there and what it would be like. And along with that came sort of an understanding. You grow up fast, right? When your parents are getting divorced. And my parents always treated us like very, very responsible children. So they would talk to us sometimes about finances and things that were maybe off limits to some other kids that weren't in the same situation. So I knew my mom had to buy my dad out. I started to learn about equity. I started to learn about mortgage payments and what that's like. And so I started to pay attention to pricing and how much things were over here and over there. And it was probably more like 12 because 13 was a whole different year for me. But it was just so eye-opening to me. And then later on, I would say maybe like 15, 16, I got a job at a place called a Renter's Choice. And these guys would build out a book. I dropped out of school, another long story, but I got a full-time job there. And these guys would build out this book with like rentals, and people would come in, pay $100 for the book. And they were supposed to be rentals they couldn't get like outside of the newspaper, things like this. So I would do all aspects of that. I would build the book. I would call the landlords. Yeah. And so I would talk to these landlords, and, at 16, they'd be like, oh, I have one for 600 a month, one for 500 a month, one for 700 a month. And you look at the numbers and you're like, wow, they're really making good money. So, I mean, it's been like a constant pull for me, I think, throughout my life, that real estate has just kind of pulled on me and called to me. Around the same time, I got kind of into Donald Trump, not so much like, the person he is or anything like that, but he was big in real estate and he was living this lavish lifestyle. And I'm like, okay, real estate is the ticket. So by now I'm probably 17, 18. Sorry, got another full-time job. And I was with this company, was Playtex, and I was with them for about 4 years. Then they went out of business, and they brought a vocational company in, and the vocational company said, find a job in the industry you've always wanted to be in. Like, if you want to be in fashion design, go work at the front desk. And that was like some really great advice. So I put my application into a real estate company who was hiring for a bookkeeper. And I started with them and was with them for like 16 years. And I learned so much. They were investors in my area, and they had like mobile home parks, 55 plus communities, storage, subdivisions. I mean, I've done all of it at this point. It's just been on the sidelines or been involved in all kinds of ways.
That is so cool. I love that the fact that your parents talked to you about that when you were so young because I
Yeah.
feel like there's so many kids that like go to college and they don't know like what's a checkbook, how do I balance it, how do I use credit responsibly. Like I think that's a huge conversation and such an advantage that your parents gave you, like introducing that to you and helping you understand how it all works. That's amazing.
Yeah. In the moment, you don't understand like how trauma can actually change your life. But
Totally.
for sure. I mean, without that, I probably would have went on to be a doctor or something, to be honest with you. I always wanted to be a doctor, and now I'm a doctor of real estate.
Totally. Yeah. It's like all those aspects, you're still using all those skills that you
Yeah.
would have done it, but you're using them for real estate. And because real estate is so competitive, how did you learn how to like make yourself stand out in the crowd?
Um, because of the way that I got into real estate, I was never really with a conventional brokerage. I never really went to a Keller Williams or Remax, so I never drank any of the Kool-Aid. So I just was different by default, really, because I didn't get licensed right away when I worked with the investors. And I never really cared to be a real estate agent. It wasn't what I got in the industry for. I picked up my real estate license because I wanted to start investing, and I didn't want to. I was like 24, and I didn't want to call these agents who would then be like, "Oh yeah, right, like you're going to buy a building," And so I was like, "I'm just going to get my license, and then this way I won't have to explain financing to anybody. I can just go look at what I want, write offers. I won't have to ask anybody for anything." And then word got around, like my friends and family started to find out I had a license, and they're like, "Hey, will you help me?" I was like, "Sure, why not?" And then it just kind of grew organically from there. So it really kind of started as a hobby and or doing it for myself. And then it just grew from there. And people tell me all the time, I'm so different than other real estate agents, things like this. And my brokerage is so different than other brokerages too. But I just think it's because I make a conscious effort not to do what everyone else does. And I think that just I just have different energy than a lot of people. I just, obviously, I mean, I was kind of born that way, but um, I found some good mentors too who didn't really fit in the box either. And so that helped me understand more about myself too. Like if you want to be in the box, find a mentor in the box. If you don't want to be in the box, find a mentor outside the box.
Absolutely. What do you think was the hardest part of growing your business?
I mean, growth is an everyday thing, right? It's like, so I would say consistency is probably the hardest part to grow your business. I'm a bit moody, and I get I have days where I'm just like, I don't feel like it. And it's hard because my phone still rings and there's still like lots happening. And so I look at my bank account and I say, I just don't want to work today.
Good
So
for
I
you.
yeah, so I would say consistency is probably the hardest. Also, I'm like super driven, but the older I get, my drive, I'm not gonna say it's shrinking, but it's like, do I really want to work 15 hours a day to grow? And so it's like it's timing is what I'm trying to describe too. I think it's like, you have the desire to grow, but then you also have to have the energy and the will to match it. So I would say focus on energy if you want to grow. That would be the thing to do, is to cultivate the energy.
I completely agree. I think there's something to be said for consistency because I have talked to a lot of people and everybody is like, everybody wants to live this amazing lifestyle that we all see like on TV and social media and all the things. But there's so many people that are not willing to do the work and not willing to do the work consistently. But I think energy plays a big part in that because you've got to know what are your good days, or even the time of day. Because some people are like, I work way better in the morning versus, my husband, who's a real estate agent, is like a total night owl. He loves to work till like 1 o'clock in the morning. It's crazy. So I think figuring that out is probably the sooner you can figure it out, the better, right?
Well, and then being honest about it too. I think if you try to go against the grain with yourself and be like, no, I'm a morning person, even though you know you're a night owl, at some point you get a little rebellious. And then you're just like against yourself, right? You're like not answering the
Totally.
phone. You're like,
I love that. It's so true. I think people are like, I have to be a certain way. I have to do a certain thing, and I think that's one of the best parts about this entrepreneurial journey is that you get to choose how you want to do things. And yeah, they might, there's a reason why certain people do certain things in a certain order, but you can also figure out a way that works for you.
yeah, I think so. And I think that it's important to have like want growth for a positive reason. Lots of
Totally.
people have drive for negative reasons, like they're in survival mode or they have something to prove or those kind of things. So really kind of understanding your why and making sure that it's a positive why, I think is also really important for growth and that consistency and that kind of thing.
I'm so glad that you brought up why because I think it's so important to have that already laid out. So, what would you tell someone who is discouraged and felt like giving up in their business? Would you focus back on the why, or is there something else that you would add to that?
I would say the why and the vision would be really important. And sometimes it is time to let it go. And I think really knowing that too is there. So sometimes we build these visions and these whys and we try to make the mechanism, we try to make this medium that we think is going to work, and then it's the wrong medium, and it's not the only way to get to the vision and the why. So I think being willing to scratch it and start again sometimes is important if you're at that space. And then secondly, if that's not where you're at with scratching it, if you're just frustrated with not being able to get it off the ground, I would say, again, that consistency, cultivating the energy, concentrating on your vibration and not letting that kind of thing really kind of pull you down. You know how the law of attraction, everybody knows about that at this point and what that is. And so I keep the guidance scale. I know they can't see it, but I keep the guidance scale from Abraham Hicks, emotional guidance scale. Yeah. So literally like it puts a label on what your vibe should be. So I don't know if it's backwards to you, but basically like you want to stay above contentment. Have you ever seen this?
I haven't. I
So
would be
above,
so interested to see that.
yeah. So the highest vibration is joy, appreciation, empowerment, and freedom. And the beginning of the highest vibration is contentment. So you at least want to be at contentment. If you slide into boredom, then you're getting into the lower vibe frequencies. So I think, not to get too woo on anybody, but if, keeping your vibration is important because you start working on attracting people to you and what you're doing and what your business is, and people will resonate with who you are and your vibration. So I think that's really important too. If you're feeling bottomed out or if you're feeling frustrated, actually frustration is on here and it's number 11. So basically Abraham Hicks teaches that if you can get from number 11 to number 10, which is pessimism, and then if you can get from pessimism to boredom, and then from boredom to contentment, like you can just keep going back up the scale till you can get to that place of like high vibration when people want to work with you and people want to be in your space and talk to you and all the things that will help with your business.
I love that. I think that is so, I just love all that like
Woo.
meditation. Like I just love all that stuff. Like I'm just like dipping my toe in the water, but it is fascinating. And
Yes,
so
absolutely.
along those same lines, like what do you think, how important is it to get outside support when, scaling your business? Is it mentorship like you mentioned earlier? Is it seminars, coaches, books, or, did you find that scale online or did you get that from one of their conferences?
That scale is from Pinterest. I've read all their books. Abraham Hicks, like I said, is
Okay.
what it's called. And there's like 3 or 4 or 5 of them.
Okay.
They do cruises and courses. I've never been to any of their seminars. I am a seminar junkie. I am an information junkie. So I've been to a lot, but those I haven't been to.
Okay.
I would say finding the right mentor is imperative. Um, a mentor can help you more than an employee at the beginning of your business building. Really kind of, again, energetically helping you with tasks, figuring out where you should be focused. So it's sort of like hiring a manager. And like people need to be managed. And especially when we're just starting out in business, I think it's important that somebody who's further ahead than you can say, spend your energy here, focus on this. You don't want anybody too bossy who's like, this is the way and the only way, and here's what you do. Like, you don't want to be in too much of a box, but somebody who's a good coach. I've had several amazing mentors in my life. So I'm at a space right now where I I'm not really feeling like being mentored, but that's after many, 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 many years of having a coach and mentor. So yeah, I think it's important to get the right support, and knowing what that support is also important.
How did you find when you first started out? How did you find your mentors? Was it someone that worked with you at the first, when you were creating those books, or did you go out and seek that person? I think for a lot of people, they struggle with finding a mentor and more importantly finding the one that vibes with you, because like you mentioned earlier, you're like somebody that's kind of like has the same vibe, the same personality as you, can be this reciprocal relationship.
Yeah, I my first mentors that I've had were definitely in the workspace. So definitely people that I had jobs with. The owner of the investment company that I worked for was a really good mentor. Taught me so much. And I think part of getting mentored is you have to really be open and willing to learn. And so you may have somebody right in front of you who would be willing to mentor you, or maybe who already does, and you're not quite acknowledging it. I think that's part of it. So finding somebody maybe in your circle who will mentor you. I have at my brokerage, I have a few people who have asked me to mentor them, and it's common sense. It's easy to say yes,
Yeah.
um, and to be there for them. I mean, they're like my babies.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So even something like that, like if you're an agent and you're looking for a brokerage, like you really want somebody who will mentor you in the business based on you, not what they've done or what the books say or this kind of thing, but based on who you are. And then secondly, I've never been afraid to pay for mentoring. I've spent $100,000 a year on mentorship. I think that I always get a huge return back. Um, and I think when you pay somebody, when you look for a mentor, it needs to be somebody who attracted you. So it's hard because you don't necessarily want to go look for that. You have to find somebody who's been speaking to you all this time, and finally when you're ready, you raise your hand and you go for it. And it can be absolutely life changing. I'd say if you're going to pay somebody, make sure it's somebody who calls himself a mentor. um, I think there's a difference between a coach and a mentor, but a good mentor can do both, coach and mentor. Does that answer your question?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a distinction like you mentioned between both, and I think that it's okay to start out with a mentor and then determine like, hey, we're not really like on the same page, we're not vibing together. Like maybe it starts out with someone that you work with and then you're like, this isn't really what I'm thinking, maybe the focus is different, but I think it's important to be open to it. Just like with everything, like if you're open to it, then you have an opportunity to receive that. But if you're not even like paying attention to that or looking for it, you're probably not going to find it.
Right. It's true. Yeah. I think that's a good way to say it. Be open to receiving that support. And that's when you'll find someone is talking to you. You're just maybe just haven't been ready yet to
Right.
see it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So,
kind of how mine have shown up.
yeah, you think that
Yeah.
that's like, I think that that has been the way for me too, is that it's kind of like, you know that you need someone and it's just like you kind of like put it out there and be like willing to receive and then it's just like boom, they're there, which is kind
Yeah.
of weird to like say it like that, but I'm like thinking back to all the people that have helped me and I'm like, it's so true.
When the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? Isn't
Yeah,
that the saying?
definitely.
Yeah.
That is like, that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, what area do you think is the most important to focus on, like when you're building your business? Like maybe you're not where you want to be, but you want to build it. What do you think is things to focus on?
Don't laugh. Mindset.
Oh my God.
Always mindset. Always.
Yes, you're
Mindset
so
is
right.
it's so important. Nothing else matters, really, except mindset. Yeah. Yep.
And like you mentioned with that scale, it's like you
Mhm.
can literally pull yourself up into the next stage based on your mindset. And we have to remember that nobody really wants to work with somebody who's grumpy,
Yeah.
and not like in the
Well,
right
and also
headspace.
the higher your vibe, the more inclined you're to take like inspired action and to do all the things and make things happen. So I think mindset is the most important because if you're crying in your soup, you're not gonna pick up the phone.
Yeah,
You're not gonna want to work.
totally. Now, I want to hear more about your book,
Okay.
Confessions of a Real Estate Investor. Like, let's dig into that because that is like totally like my vibe. I love investing in real estate. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's kind of a tell-all. I mean, it talks exactly about what I did from start to finish and where I'm at right now. And um, it's just everything. Everything's in there. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna put it all in a book. People gonna read it, then they can have it all.
I
It's
love
all
that.
it's all in there from where to invest, what type of investments you should do, where to find money, if you don't have any money, what to do. It's all in there. Oh, if you have a partner, like a romantic partner, what to do to get them on board. I know a lot of women struggle with that when they want to invest and their partner's not on board. And so there's some stuff in there about that. And yeah, it's good stuff. Men too. Men sometimes they want to invest and then their partner's not on board. So I've worked with a lot of couples over the years. So I've developed some strategies for getting everybody on board. I have couples that call me like I had one last week call me and they just wanted to help let them they wanted me to help them solve their argument. They were they're a couple I've worked with them so long, but they're not the only couple that does it. I mean, like I get calls like that all the time. I mean, typically it's business related and this kind of thing, but yeah, they call me all the time and like
That's awesome though,
I know.
because once you get like once that decision is made, like then they can move on to so many other things. And sometimes you just need that person to be like, okay, both of you guys are right, but let's find a way to make it work.
Exactly, exactly. Or like I was like, John, you're not gonna win. I said she's not giving up on this one.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe you can win the next one, but not this one.
And And she was so frustrated from banging her head against the wall. She's like, "Thank you, Jill."
Yes. Well, that's awesome. Well, I'm excited to share that link for your book. Can you tell our guests where they can find you, where you're
Yeah.
at on social media?
If you go to just jillsussman1.com, all of the ways that you can work with me are on there. My Instagram is also at jillsussman1, so you can find me there as well. Send me a DM if you have questions and things like that. That'd be great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it. This was so much fun. I can't wait to have another conversation with you with all of our friends here on the Scale Your Small Business podcast.